So the garage is pretty clean, which means it's time to start a new project. So if you've been following along, you know that I recently installed the Holley Sniper EFI system on the Camaro. I'm really excited about how that's gone so far. I've done a little bit of just kind of warming it up in the driveway, letting it learn a little bit, but I haven't driven the car yet. And there's a couple reasons. One, the neighbors don't like me to blast up and down the street too often, so I try to limit when I do that. And number two, the throttle linkage that comes from Holley is oddly not progressive. And what I mean by that is when you hit the gas on this, it opens all the throttle blades at one time. For most folks that will install these sort of systems, they're putting it on a cruiser. It has an automatic transmission. It's not quite full-bore race car like this one is. And it works okay. You get all your power and you go. This car, it's a little different. It's a manual transmission. It technically has no flywheel. The clutch bolts to a pressure plate, so it revs really fast and really freely. The problem is, without a progressive linkage on this, it makes all the horsepower the moment you touch the pedal, which makes a car that's hard to drive even more difficult to drive. So we're going to install a progressive throttle linkage. The linkage itself is made by Holley. I got it through EFI System Pro. We're going to put it on the car, and then I'll show you what you do inside the Sniper unit to set it all up. So this is what I got from EFI System Pro. It's the Holley Linkage Part 20-122. It's an adjustable progressive linkage. We'll open that up in a sec. And then a series of instructions. My favorite part, tools needed, just needle nose pliers. So Holley sells two linkage setups for this. They have a fixed linkage or they have an adjustable one. For most people, the fixed linkage is fine. It'll open up the secondary throttle somewhere around 38 to 42%. I went with the adjustable one because when we get this on the dyno and we start setting it up for autocross pulls, I may want those secondaries to open a little bit sooner or a little bit later, depending on the kind of power we're making. So I wanted to be able to adjust it. Let's go ahead and take a look at all what's in here and see how many small parts I dropped. So we've got our instructions from Holley. We'll take a look at those in a moment. And then we have all the parts. We've got 4 washers, a threaded rod here with a square with a hole, another little bit here, 2 small cotter pins, and a clevis pin. So initial assembly of the adjustable linkage is way easier than I thought. We're just going to take this little guy here and thread it on. Now we can go ahead and pull the old linkage and get this one on. So the first step here is to remove the cotter pin that's towards the front of the car, and then the old linkage can come out. See if I can get in here. All right, so the pin's off and out. We just want to remove the washer. Oh, and the linkage is already out. That's what I get for paying attention. I unhooked the throttle cable here just to make it a little easier to see what we're doing. The old throttle linkage connected into the secondary here at the top and into this third hole down on the bottom. So this whole piece comes out. Our new linkage goes into the top hole on the primary and uses the same hole in the secondary. It ships with 4 washers. They're 2 different thicknesses. You put the thinner washer on this side, and then the thicker washer goes on the side with the cotter pin. I'm gonna go ahead and get the washers in place on the cotter pins, and then we're gonna check to see where everything's opening before we bend the cotter pins over.
What the hell are you doing, banana hands?
With the cotter pins in place but not bent over, we can go ahead and power up the unit and take a look at throttle position to see when those blades are opening. So we'll get to a screen that shows our throttle position. Right now it's showing roughly 2%, and we'll go ahead and move everything and see when the secondary is open. Just opening things up now. And right about there is where they start to open, which is 50%. It's a little more than I want, so I'll make an adjustment real fast. After a couple iterations and back and forth, I finally got things adjusted where they need to be. So now throttle's reading 0, and I'll start to open up the throttle, and as soon as I hit 40%, that's when those secondaries start to open, which is exactly what you want to see per the spec. We may end up changing that so they open a little bit sooner, but we'll decide that when we get on the dyno. So the next step is going to be updating the software so that it knows we are now using a progressive linkage. Using the handheld, exit out of this, we're going to hit home. From here, we're going to go to tuning and then system. Once you're in system, you go to sniper setup. And here it says progressive TBI linkage disabled. We're going to hit that, enable it, save that configuration. An edit has been made that requires the ignition, so say OK. We'll go ahead and cycle the ignition. Everything boots back up. So now we confirm. We'll go to tuning, system, sniper setup, and you can see it says progressive linkage. So that's it for this one. Pretty quick, pretty easy, but we now have a progressive throttle linkage on the car. Everything's good to go with that. I've got one more thing coming for this, and then we can start thinking about heading to the dyno. For now, hit the like, hit the subscribe. Some other team members have been uploading videos. Check them all out, and we'll see you soon.